Well, shit fire, you guys. What is going on? Yeah, so pardon me while I rearrange, get everything all straightened up. Hello, hello. I want to. Well, I just want to talk to you about this Bible some more. Um, I have to address this idea that when what I do on this channel is to talk about the spirit side of the Bible. And when because the way it works out is that anyone can read the Bible, anyone can cut and paste from the Bible, everyone can read whatever it is they could see on the Bible. There ain't nothing anyone can do it. From the littlest of baby to the oldest of man, it doesn't matter. Anyone can read this Bible. So what I'm going to tell you, and let's brace yourself for the shocker. Not everyone can understand it. All right. So, when someone wants to talk to me and say something like, hey, they throw some kind of what kind of, what would they say? What kind of sayings would they say? I really wouldn't know. When I'm talking about something and, hey, this has not got any Jesus in it, of course it doesn't have any Jesus in it. On the spiritual side of this, the spiritual side of this is showing us the inner workings of the Bible, of our body and our mind. It's the situation between, the what you see and what you don't see. So, like I said, anyone can see what they're looking at, but does anyone really see what they're saying? Does everyone really hear what's being said? No, they don't. So that's what I do. I tell you what it's that, anyone can hear it, but, and say it, but do you understand it? No. With the whole point of what we have learned from the Bible is that, if you can't see it and you can't hear it, if you can't hear the Spirit or see the Spirit, you just can't see it. You just won't see it, and you never will. You won't. It's just not your time. All right? It's only for those that can see it, those that have the ear for it, and those that have the eye for it. Those are the ones, coupled with the understanding in their heart, brings the three things together, which is, you're because you've learned now how to reach this spiritual side. You can now sow the seeds correctly, which means now you can read the Bible and understand what it's saying. So, I don't have to wrestle with very many. I don't care to wrestle with too many people on my channel, unless it's just that. And I just say, come on over, let's do some teeter-totter, and you be Father, and I'll represent God. Okay, because there's I can put up with both sides of this thing. All right, but don't go quoting shit for me in the Bible that oh, go look at this, unless you want me to go and interpret it for you, because what it's saying on the outside, on this surface, doesn't mean nothing. It really means nothing. It's just some kind of little folly for people to follow. That's it. It really is. You can treat your females terribly, and you can hate fags, and you can enjoy yourself having slaves and being slaves. That dog don't hunt here no more. It's over with. So anyways, teach you about the ears and how to listen to stuff. And that's what I do. All right. So, so I know a lot of times when it comes down to, comparison, what we've been doing is talking and tearing apart the Bible. But in my group things that I have here on my channel is I also weave in between other places and other factors or other elements that come in, like, like I was talking earlier, this Snow White story. It's just really cool how this particular cadence, this thing that we do when we're talking about following a code, how it works. What does it sound like? But so you would liken it to Song of Solomon. And Song of Solomon is just an everyday scripture that we have in our Bibles that's loaded with the code. So it's the same situations where, 1, 2, and 3, that's over with. All right. Then, and it goes very simple. She has her mate. She has her man. He likes to live he likes the lilies of the field. So she is black. So don't follow me because I'm black. The sun touches me. So the idea that she's, she was told to tend to the fields. That's her job, is to tend to the fields and tend to the vine. But her own vine, she can't do. She has to tend to other people's vine. So she's talking about being on the outside, and there's this idea of feeding the people's kids that's outside of their tent, is their job, So you would see that this, someone who goes in and puts a tent up, goes towards God, with this idea of doing the way, then that kid is the one outside of the tent, is outside. The kid is the child. Is this going over people's head? So there's this idea that, that the tent, the person that's pitching the tent, and the child or the kid, it's the person that's looking for help. And so there's a person or a woman or a female that is required to do this job. All right. So, but this is how we go. So let's put Snow White to the challenge. So what does we get with Snow White is we start off with the picture of her mother. Her mother. She is sitting in a window surrounded by a black frame. This is the mother. All right. And so she's framed in a window, and she's sewing something up, and she looks up and something catches her attention or whatever, and she pricks herself, and 3 drops of blood hit the Snow White ground. And she just thought about it and said, it would be nice if she had a daughter. And so what she did is, she had the daughter. All right. And as soon as she had the daughter, she died. All right. So this makes a motherless child, right? And a wife that's gone. All right. But she's actually a queen. All right. So the king doesn't have a isn't got his natural, or his love. All right. It's not mixing up with the love. Which is what happens with Solomon, is he never gets to her. They never get together. They never get together. That's because she tells her girls, which is this chakra system, these little girls, she says, do not arouse him, do not awake him, do not, bring him up lest he pleases. So, that means they're just never gonna meet. Because, it's just the way it is. Because he would rather have the lilies of the field. So the same idea with this Snow White gal is, what happens is another wife comes in. All right, now it's a wife, it's not the mother. And she is really beautiful and what have you. And she has the magic mirror on the wall. And mirror on the wall is looking for the fairest in the kingdom. And that's why her husband or her father went to him, because he found someone and it was fair, and this is taking something lower than his wife, the one that that was the mother of this child. And something grew between those two. Next thing you know, she's being chased off by this mother. She did, oh my God, because when she turned 7 years old, she became the most beautiful person in the kingdom. And the mother, their stepmother, wanted her dead. So she ran her off. And it took several attempts to try to kill this woman. I think if you called them off, it took 4 things to kill her, 4 different methods. And it really didn't kill her off. It really just put her to sleep. And for a long time, she was asleep. And what was funny about this, I want to show, I'm going to minus you down for a second and pull this up. She runs into 7 critters, that come and find her and basically rescue her in some way. But these 7 actually watched over her during this death state, and tried to keep her alive, tried to keep her from mixing with this queen that was trying to kill her. All right, but so what do we get? We get 7 things, but they're talking about the different parts of our body. They're talking, this is in our Bible. We were just talking about this plate. There's a plate where you serve the Lord from, and there's a drink, there's mug, there's all these different things, but it's just so beautiful. And it's just wonderful that this is where you have to lend your ear. All right. I don't want to go through the whole story. I'm just showing you how it works out. So while this woman is asleep, she is now the fairest woman of them all, because little Snow White is gone. And there's like 7 mountains between this where she came from and where both the girls come from their father. There's 7 mountains between them and those 7 dwarfs. And the 7 dwarfs spend a lot of time in the mountains mining for gold. And so they didn't have names, but you could just tell this. All right. In the mercy seat is the chair. This is the 7th chakra. Okay, so the first one said, who's been sitting in my chair? And the second one said, who's been eating from my plate? That's the 2nd chakra. Third is the third one, who's been eating my bread? That's the throat. The 4th one, who has been eating my vegetables? 4th, this is the ground. This is the earth. This is your heart. Who has been sticking my fork? Who has been sticking with my fork? That's the 5th one. The 5th one is the body, represents the body. This is the meat. This is you. So who has been sticking with my fork? The 5th, so the 6th one is, who has been cutting with my knife? And who has been drinking from my mug? So these are beautifully written. If you couldn't hear that, too bad. All right. If you did hear that, beautiful. All right. But every one of those things is representing one of the Christian symbols for the different places in our body. All right. As far as like the 7 chakras go. All right. It's just beautiful. Okay. Yeah. I hate not seeing myself. Anyway. So what happens is this story would go on, that a prince would show up and come to this little place of rest, which is this room where these guys hang out at. And so this is the little room that the 7 dwarfs live in. All right, this is that same little room that shows up in the middle of the forest. This is where they are. This is where Snow White ran off to. And perched up on the mountain was this Snow White in a glass coffin. So, and she's as pretty as the day that she died, and she is still sitting there. So this somebody comes in, a prince, falls madly in love at her just to watch her. He says, if I can't look upon her, if I cannot look upon her, I will just die. Can I have her? Can I do this? Can we do that? And in the process, he said, they finally said, sure, We'll give her to you. So they get a bunch of people to help pull her to life, or to pull her up and to transfer where she's going to go. And then this jostling going on, it jostles and removes this little bite of an apple that keeps her asleep. All right, that apple, it's two apples. It's the poison that made her go to sleep, which is the stepmother. This is a story that runs very clear in other stories too, like Cinderella. These are the same things where Cinderella, the opening story is that she is called to the outside to feed a prince and his servant, to draw some water from a well. Just like with Moses. Moses is running and running and running. Moses just killed someone. And so the next thing you know, he comes to a well. And, and the women of the well come to run to pull water for him and his cast, for him and his flock. That's basically the same thing. Not basically, it is the same thing, just using different words. So, and, and Jonah starts right off, sitting by a well. So he's and talks to God right off the bat. Here's, about his next door neighbors. Let's kill them, mother. Get rid of them. It's just no good. He says, no, I want you to go over and talk to him first. Give him my word. So what happens with this guy is that this woman, she wakes up and they live happily ever after. But whenever they marry and bring everything together, they bring that woman too. They bring that stepmother back into the story. And they heat her shoes up to an terrible, whatever they do. They heat her shoes up and they force her to put her feet in it and dance until she dies. So, what happens is that the good side is winning. They're trying to make the happy out of this bitch, and she just can't be, because that's her job, was to steal this woman's job from her for a little while, put her to sleep, make her not look, and that's where we're at right now. We're at a place where people, not me, and I'm not bragging, well, maybe I am, but the idea is that I'm going to use the word we come to this life in this world without. We can't. And all of these stories that we're talking about, we're finding, we made a vow to be not to be connected until we do all our work. And then, of course, there was a dowry that came with this, that I promise you live on forever and ever. I promise, and I will dwell with thee. This is a promise. And so it's brought back to life, and he doesn't take over you or she. This idea is that now you're all one, you're one family, and what can be so bad about that? Nothing at all. So in these stories, you would see this idea of the world bending and making these stories. I mean, the world is what they're trying to create. And whenever I use these outside stories, they are no different and pull no less or no weight from the original stories that we find in the Bible. Just because it has the word Bible written on it it doesn't work like that. The story of Odin, when Odin is having this trouble, Odin is told that he was going to be overcome by one of his children. And so instead of, waiting on him, every time his wife had a child, he was there to devour it. So he would eat it. So this is this idea of, Baal. This is, but this is, a different time. And so as she had her birth, he was there to eat them up. And so when it got to the seventh child, she tricked him up. And she says, well, I'm going to give him a stone instead of that child. And when he went to eat it, he just gobbled it up, and this made his stomach sick. And every one of the other children, one by one, were restored as he threw them up. He is overcome by the seventh child. And no different is this from Devaki, which is the mother of Krishna. She was put in the same situation where she was put into a cave and allowed to have her children, and one by one, her brother, her brother got to come out here and steal them and kill them and smash them into the ground. Then, of course, something crazy happened around the 8th one, the 7th one. And it wound up being the one that kicked ass. And, here's Krishna being born, So it's the same idea as Christ being born. It's the same idea as the end code and more. And, as far as the code concerned, this is how Buddha gets enlightened. It's just so beautiful. He has the number system where, he's looking for the 5 Brahmanas, those guys that are really skinny and stuff like that. He would go with them for a little while, and he had about died, and some damsel came to the forest and found him almost half dead and nursed him back to life. You guys, these stories are the exact same stories. This is how God's word lives on and on and on, because it is everywhere. It really is. The 6 swans is a beautiful thing. Jack and the Beanstalk. These, when you give up the cow, you give up the cow and you get 5 beans. Throw those 5 beans out the window and you get a stalk that grows up, and when you go up there, you get your riches. He did it 3 times. The harp is up there. Found out he's the goose that lays the golden egg. This is just amazing. This is where you get your riches. And then the 8 is the chopping down point of this here, that this is going to be stuck like this forever and ever. We're not going to change anymore. We're going to get rid of that big old giant upstairs after he robbed him and took away his stuff. So this is, this is Jacob, stealing from Esau, taking his inheritance. It's the same story. The same story. All right. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right. So let's see how many hours it takes for this 20-minute little video to be uploaded to that beautiful, wonderful Father of ours, YouTube. All right. We know Father is not the good God. All right. I love y'all. I really do. I'll chat with you again. All right. Let's see who cares about this.